Chris speaks here tonight with former PSC candidate Robert McCollum, who ran in last year's election against Chip Beaker, making it to the primary. He's come back on the show tonight. He's been a regular here several times, and we're going to have a discussion tonight about a tweet that went out yesterday from President Kavanaugh. For some reason, she felt the need to tweet to the citizens of Alabama about her conservative values and how she was protecting the Second Amendment gun rights and protecting pro-life. And that begged the question to me, Robert, why would the Public Service Commission president be tweeting something about the Second Amendment and pro-life when they have no, say-so on what goes on with that?
Because if you look at the 2022 races, the challengers overcome almost the impossible and forced two incumbents into a runoff, which caused them incumbents to have to spend a tremendous amount of money to hold their jobs. She knows she's in trouble, and this is what you call a desperation to save her candidacy. I mean, if you look at all her previous opponents that she's had major challenges from, she's lost to every single one.
That is true. When you go back and look at the race against Governor Ivey, State Treasurer and Lucy Baxley and Will Ainsworth. Did you see this as a desperation move that she is running scared and trying to ward off would-be challengers?
I think it's a desperation move. When you look at the 2022 election, right after the two incumbents won their election, right after we had 4 rate increases, one right after the other, and what that ultimately boils down to is they had to repay the favor for saving their candidacy. And I think Twinkle is in very bad trouble, and I hope the people of Alabama remember these rate increases.
And, if you recall, that one rate increase happened about 2 days after they secured re-election. One thing I believe that she has a bullseye on her back is this is going to be the top, race in this coming up election, and she's going to have a bullseye square on her back. All eyes are going to be on this.
It will be the only 100% statewide ballot or statewide race.
And I feel that she's going to come out with her same old dribble about I'm fighting the liberal, Pelosi, Obama, insert whatever name you hear, Green Deal, send them a message that she has no control over. And hopefully the voters of this state will not fall for that this time.
Well, if the voters of this state continue to fall for that same line, I mean, ultimately what that is it comes down to the desperation of a con artist. If you can con the voters into really believing this crap that they actually have something to do with that, if she successfully continues to con the voters, then honestly the voters deserve exactly what they're getting.
Yeah, you're right on that, because I don't know how they fall for it time and time again. I remember back in 2012 when she was running for Public Service Commission against Lucy Baxley, she had an ad that said, send Barack Obama a message. Now, do you think President Obama was concerned the least bit about a public service commissioner on the PSC of Alabama?
Barack Obama probably doesn't even know who Twinkle Kavanaugh is.
Exactly. And, one thing I like to point out with her, she hangs her hat on defeating Lucy Baxley in 2012, because what a popular politician Lucy Baxley was. Well, by that time, Lucy was a shell of her former self. That stroke had debilitated her, left her at home. And in that race, Twinkle was well funded. Lucy had no money, and she was stuck from campaigning at home via email and telephone, and still only lost the race by 7 points. Had Lucy Baxley been able to campaign, she would have drubbed Twinkle Kavanaugh.
If Twinkle Kavanaugh hangs her whole political career on Lucy Baxley, then wouldn't that be basically the same as Shorty Price hanging his whole political career on winning an alternate delegate election?
Yeah, there could be some parallels made to that right there. Why do the Beaker and Oden people just fall, in line with everything that she wants?
Well, ultimately, I think Beaker's a person that's not going to rock the boat. And, I still haven't figured out Odin 100% yet enough to make a statement on his part.
Well, I believe the man's very dishonest, deceitful. We've seen that the stunts he pulled in the last election. Um, if Jeremy Odin told me the sun rose in the east and set in the west, I would call him a liar.
Well, I mean, you have your opinions, and I respect your opinions.
And another thing we look at too, it is his formula from, if I'm not mistaken, that he set up where Alabama Power gets their profits of 14% when the rest of the nation is getting it at 5%.
And if I'm not mistaken, he bragged about that formula, about helping to develop that formula, which what you would call that is, have you ever heard of a magician's term, the sleight of hand? While you're looking over here, something else is really going on over here.
Right. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying with that right there. We've seen in the last times that, the commissioners were vulnerable. I believe that just reiterates the facts. If they're vulnerable, Twinkle Kavanaugh is vulnerable. And with her being the head of the PSC, I think that makes her even more vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. You're going to look at her. She will be even more vulnerable than Chip and Jeremy.
And from the tweets that I seen out, that people was firing back, you don't have any control over this, do your job like this. I think the voters are beginning to see through her lies and her smoke and mirrors that she tries to fool the voters of Alabama with.
Well, I mean, when people try to do smoke and mirrors, you know what that is? That is the exact definition of a con artist.
Oh, and they have conned them for, the last, 12, 15 years, through, so many different methods out there. And they will continue to do this.
Well, I know the PSC is a body of the legislature created by the legislature to help cut down on this level of corruption that we have going on inside the PSC. I think the legislature should propose term limits of 2 4-year terms for PSC members.
Yeah, the corruption is just unbelievable. I'm sure you read the article I had a few weeks ago with, the Alabama Power executives, funneling money from Viva Healthcare into these PACs that was funding Twinkle Kavanaugh's elections. The corruption is just rampant at this right here, and they have nobody to answer to.
And it's blatantly obvious to the voters year in and year out. And what do? They go in and reelect these people.
What should be done down there if you got on the PSC to end or try to end this corruption? I mean, what would Robert McCollum do?
Well, the first thing is we need to get the PSC regulating Alabama Power instead of Alabama Power regulating the PSC. Second thing is we need to make the meetings more open and more friendly. We need to allow everyday citizens to be able to come into the meetings and voice their opinions. And honestly, if PSC commissioners brag about how clean the water is and call someone a liberal environmentalist for wanting to protect our waterways, I would say this to them. I would ask them to go drink a glass of water out of the Coosa River, or go drink a glass of water out of the Black Warrior River.
Yeah, that should be something brought to them out there and see if they would do it. And when you mentioned that about liberal environmentalists, what exactly is that? Nobody can explain what is a liberal environmentalist.
I can't explain that myself. I've been trying to figure out what the Public Service Commission's definition is of a conservative, because neither one of them three fall into that category. I thought conservatives were for less tax and saving the people money, whereas they're for continuously hiking rates when we've got inflation that's sky high. And ultimately what they're doing is they're stealing money out of the people of Alabama's pockets. They're stealing gas out of their car. They're stealing food out of their table, food off their table. They're stealing everyday needs of the citizens of Alabama.
And something you just said about conservative, I'd like to point out the Public Service Commission should not be a job of conservative and liberal, along those lines, because when you think about the Democratic Party, they're always out trying to help, lower class people. So they would not be supportive of these rate increases that are being, passed every the month.
I think the Public Service Commission should ultimately be a nonpartisan office.
Right, exactly right. It should be a nonpartisan office.
Because what are they regulate? What are they doing? Like, what are they governing that has any political bias to Democrat or Republican?
None. And until we can get this message out, it's going to continue, and we have to get stop this, or it's never going to end. And they're just going to do whatever they're doing. They're making $100,000 a year driving a state car, state cell phone, a gas card, health insurance, and they're working 2 days a month.
Sounds like a damn good retirement job for them.
I mean, no wonder they don't want to get off that position.
Mm-hmm. And if Twinkle wants to talk about how she's had a successful political career, she's lost every single race except for the PSC race. And as you said, had she been running against Lucy Baxley in Lucy Baxley's prime, Lucy Baxley would have beat her by double digits.
Oh, she would have drubbed Twinkle Cavanaugh. Every one of Twinkle Cavanaugh's races that she's ran where she's had a hard opponent, she's lost. She lost to Mamaw in 2002 for the state treasurer, lost for Baxley in 2008, then lost to Ainsworth.
I'm glad you said that. And think about this. When she ran against Will Ainsworth, when Will Ainsworth ran for lieutenant governor, who the hell even knew who Will Ainsworth was?
I'd never heard of Will Ainsworth.
And Twinkle Cavanaugh has been in politics for years. I mean, she was deputy chief of staff to Bob Riley. I mean, she should have won that race with ease, but, she didn't.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, the first part we got to go is, to get rid of her. And hopefully Beaker and Odin would follow suit. Or hopefully we can get them off next. And get some people up there who are not afraid to stand up to the utility companies and say, no, enough's enough.
And, we got rid of Bob Riley in 2010, or in 2000, after his 4-year term, 2 4-year terms.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time we get rid of the henchmen too. And what I would like to know is what Twinkle Cavanaugh knew about the levels of corruption that went on during the Riley administration.
Yeah, she was one of his right-hand men.
And I think that is also
chief of staff.
I think that is also a question voters would need to ask as well.
I'm surprised that's really never came up.
Mm-hmm.
And it really hasn't. Think about this PSC right now. You've had Twinkle Cavanaugh sitting on there since 2010, Jeremy Odin since 2011, and Beaker since 2014. It's time to get these people off there.
I agree. It's time for It's time for, it's time for the legislature to enact term limits for the PSC members.
Yeah, that would be a great idea, but my thing about this, are we going to be able to get legislatures to do that? Because you've got 130 of them that are eyeing that job.
Well, I'm not saying they're going to do that. It's something they should do. As you know, most everyone that is in the legislature also receives contributions from Alabama Power, so the odds of them doing that are very slim. But it is something that needs to be done.
Is Robert McCollum considering a race for the PSC presidency?
At this time, I'm leaving all options open. But at this time, I'm not considering it 100%.
Fair enough. It's good to leave your options open in this upcoming race because I believe she's going to be very vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. I believe she is ultimately past the point of vulnerable, but anyone that supports the challengers in donations or in any way, if you want to I say this to the people that are interested in getting these people off the PSC. You're not going to get rid of Twinkle Kavanaugh or any of the other members of the PSC if you don't help a candidate get on TV. If a candidate cannot get on TV, then you might as well just fold up, go on home, and forget it.
Yeah, they're going to have some funding on that. No doubt about it. And hopefully we can get it up there. That tweet,
And the challengers are also going to ultimately have to fight the lobbyists as well, because the lobbyists will be out there trying to deter anyone, PACs or businesses in Alabama, from giving money.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that too. And as long as they control it, it's hard to fight the money.
Mm-hmm. And I've said, go ahead. Oh, you can go ahead.
No, by all means, you finish your statement.
And as I've said, most politicians in this country have done nothing but carry us down the road to socialism and the destruction of the U.S. Constitution. And I, for one, am fed up with it. And the people of Alabama and the people of this country should be too.
Very well said, Robert. And that is a great way, I think, to end this interview here. That's all the questions I have for you tonight. Is there anything else you'd like to add to it?
That'll be it. And I hope the people of Alabama take back our state, and I hope the people of America take back our country.
Robert McCollum, everybody. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.